This is Pamela Kuhn, and the curtain is up on Center Stage, the show about the arts and the artists behind their work. It is January 1st, 2021, and I delight in sharing my New Year blessings with each and every listener. It is time to move forward and time to rebuild our pandemic-challenged lives. So today, to embrace this new year, I am going to lead you into my field of expertise, the human voice. And to that end, here is an interesting quote. Austrian conductor Franz Schalk said of the performing arts world, "Every theater is an insane asylum, but an opera theater is the ward for the incurables." I have interviewed many opera singers on Center Stage. They have ranged from delightful to mercurially temperamental, but they are always insightful about their work. And I find that almost all professional singers are tenacious about their legacy, which is built on concentrated and disciplined work to perfect their art. But who is behind the scenes in the training of these singers? In the world of opera, there is no more important component for the singers than the role of vocal coach and conductor. The coach is the drive for perfecting a singer's art. They are the extra set of ears that a singer needs in their work and the rock of strength when a singer has a loss of confidence. The best coaches and conductors are prodding the singer to dig as deep as they can to find their authentic sound, their honest performance. In short, they fall into the category of masters of their work as a vocal specialist, psychologist, career brokers, and troubleshooters for their own careers and for the career trajectory of their singers. So why don't we hear more about this essential part of the performer's life? A vocal coach's work is often and sadly not publicly credited enough. And without their determined help, we would not have the standout performances of artists on stage. Well, my guest today is a vocal coach and conductor who is renowned for his resolve in his results. Anthony Manoli is recognized as one of the most sought-after vocal specialists of this time. Besides his wealth of talent as a pianist, language, and stylistic expert, his knowledge of the human voice is his resolve. Artists seek out Maestro Manoli's work when they are looking for the highest pinnacle of training and refinement. So I'm going to welcome, without further ado, Anthony Manoli. Welcome to Center Stage. This is the start of a new year for us. I'm thrilled to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to start off 2021.
I know, and what a way to do it. And where are you right now?
I am in Montreal. I'm glad you asked. I'm here until March. They were kind enough to get me across the border with the proper visa to become a visiting professor at the University of Montreal.
And I see. How long are you going to be there for?
I'm here until March 1st. So basically I am in, I guess they call it chef du chant, the head of the voice for the particular production that they're doing, which is Idomeneo. And for all you safety fans out there, we are not doing a live performance. We are doing live chunks of it in a hall recorded. And when we do a certain amount in a very big hall with 60 people present, we leave the hall for 45 minutes to have it sanitized, cleared out, the ventilation system is run, then we come back in and do another hour of work. So it is, it's a very complicated thing I'm doing. This is, I guess, a nod to what's in our future, and I'm glad to be thrown into it, kicking and screaming. As all of you know, who know me very, very well, I didn't even like Skype a year ago. And now I'm living on Zoom, Skype, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, video chat, and it's terrific. But now I'm doing what my colleagues are doing in the United States, which is to film something, do it with masks in rehearsal, take the masks off for 15 minutes, film the 15 minutes, everybody take a break, the room is ventilated, sanitized, and we come back and do it again. Here's what's difficult about that. I haven't done it yet, keeping your concentration. keeping
Very
the
interesting point.
arc of the drama going
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
a 3.5 hour Greek tragedy with breaks for
Very
45 minutes.
interesting.
So,
Very interesting. You bring up such a great point, Tony, in that, we working in studios, we haven't been really hit with the commitment of dealing with so many technical challenges.
right,
It's enough just to coach singers, right?
that's right. And if anybody saw me the morning after the 2 hour production meeting in French, well, Quebecois, it was hard enough. I was so glazed over with the list of details that I had to be really aware of and start planning my life at the university once I got to the facility with health, with the proper protocol, which
Hmm.
allows us, meaning the Canadians, to go to the campus, where a lot of campuses in the United States are closed down and
Hmm.
everything's Zoom. So we've had colleagues now in the United States. I've been fortunate to watch my colleagues do their own thing, to ignore the universities, get a big hall, do filmings, do rehearsals in a large space, and then put it all together with a 5 or 10 minute recording session, masks off, do the recording, and then keep putting it together with an hour break in between
Hmm.
to properly sanitize the room. This is difficult. It takes
Hmm.
a lot of tenacity, a lot of concentration. You can't take your eye off the ball. And that's different. So here's what I say to my singers. When we do Zoom and I say you're listening to me, now we're in the lag, stop listening, physicalize your own rhythm because you're going to have a bad conductor and a bad pianist. So you better learn how to do it this way. Well, guess what? We're all going to be stronger musicians or alcoholics. I don't know which one, but we're going to be one of those. It's very, very challenging. And I'm
Very challenging.
happy that I'm thrown into the challenge.
This is incredible. So let me take you back just a couple of months. Let's go back to, in fact, let's go back to Black Friday in March.
March
Uh,
13th.
I keep referring to this as the day the music died, and theaters closed, a thing which was unprecedented for us. We never thought we would see this coming as performers. How did you handle COVID in the beginning?
2 months of a fetal position in my bed, not
That's
getting up,
honest.
not wanting to deal with it, listening
Hmm.
to all of my clients. I mean, first, I am blessed to have so many working clients who
Hmm.
work at a high level. That's great. But when 95% of them are out of work for the next year, you lose your work.
Hmm.
So I'm listening to people losing great amounts of money who are not dealing with it very well. And I'm trying to hold them up while I'm dealing with the fact that I've just lost all my income overnight.
Indeed. Indeed.
And that you turn to food, you turn to alcohol, you start drinking a little bit more at night. And for all
Hmm.
those people who said they have the COVID-19, they're not referring to the disease. They're talking about the 19 pounds they put on.
Hmm.
And I'm
Yeah,
close to
quite.
one of them. I'm just starting to get rid of it now. I mean, you just sit at home and stare and you think, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? And then, okay, there are those who love Zoom and Skype and they're great at it. But
Hmm.
how many of the people who have no income want to invest back into keeping their voices alive and well trained? So now you're dealing with grief.
Exactly.
And all you do is deal with grief for months. How many
So,
stages of grief do you deal with? I mean, you just deal with it on a daily basis, 24/7.
so how long, honestly, and you are being incredibly candid right now, and I appreciate it. How long did it take you really to be able to come out of the grief and the anger and the shock and literally reconstruct your career?
Well, the 2 months of real grieving, I saw people every once in a while, 4 people a week, maybe 5, if I was
Hmm.
lucky. Then you watch everyone else come out of grief in their own particular time, and they find their own inner rhythm. And then you start bringing more clients back into the world of singing. And maybe I had 75% saying, we have something in 6 months, 8 months. Can we start working on it now for my own psychological benefit? So I feel better about just opening my mouth.
Hmm.
That comes in dribs and drabs. And then another month ensues and you have 25%, and then maybe 6 months you have 40%. And if you're lucky, for me, 8 months after COVID started, Black Friday for me is Friday the 13th of March. After COVID started, I had 50%, and I considered myself lucky. I was fortunate. So that depends on my clientele. So you have different strata. You have people who are part-time singers who wanted to be full-time singers, but they have an office job. They want to work with you because you're now more free. So I had that clientele. Then comes the singer who is of a high level, like Sandra Radvanovsky, who says, I can't open my mouth yet until I know there's a job. I am too depressed. So now let me start working technically, and after a month, I'll call you and we'll see where it's at. So you had those. So you had a different strata of singer. They all just start seeping in little by little. And then if you're fortunate, you get a job like this where you're working now nonstop, which is rare.
So in my intro about you, I described you as a troubleshooter and a broker for singers.
That's right.
How many of your top level singers, if I can ask, actually came to you in a panic asking for your help in that regard?
Well, it depends on what the help is regarding. Some talk to me about management changes. Some talk to me about career development, like this is coming in a year if I take this job, because they need somebody desperately because somebody else couldn't get a visa. Is that right for my voice? There's that brokering. And then there is, I have to leave the city because I can't sustain living there anymore. That's an absolute panicked. I'm on the ledge. What do you see for me in my future? I mean, I've had many working singers call me and say, that's it. I have to find something else to do. You know, my grief is one thing. I can't imagine their grief. I can't imagine.
But we are tenacious as singers, as you know, and people will survive. And I think the overriding fact is that they will not give up. I mean, they're waiting for the stages to open again. Would you agree?
Sure, I absolutely. But what I'm doing now and doing master classes with different organizations is telling them, here's what's going to happen. You either decide to keep the level of your work at such a high degree that when we get back to the life of singing again, you can jump in. Also, there's still going to be border issues. So you're going to have visa problems. So if you're in a country that needs something, be ready. Be ready to jump in. If you jump in and you're really prepared, they're going to think very highly of your work, and you're going to be able to sustain something that you couldn't before. And that's what I tell people. If you feel this is too hard for you to do and you don't have it in your soul to keep going, well, don't do it. Either get out of the profession or give yourself time. And maybe your gut will tell you it's time to go back into it again. Okay, I feel good today. It's a new year. They're talking about the vaccine. I'm going to practice. I think I'm really going to be able to do this. And the last thing I tell everybody is don't be so hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Because if you're a singer, I'm an instrumentalist by trade. I can go march to a practice room dying, feeling horrible, and get some work done. If singers are so held in their throats because they're an emotional wreck, don't sing. You're going to hurt yourself. Wait till it passes. Do whatever it takes to get the emotion out. Go to the gym if it's open. Take walks. Walk up hills like I'm doing right now to get to the university. Just do something and then see if you can get back in and really make it happen. And if you can't, you can't. Don't beat yourself up.
Can I ask you honestly, do you think that there's going to be room when we do come back for the up and coming youngsters, the young emerging professionals? Or is it really going to be left to the top singers in the world who have been asking for, top pay? I mean, in re-entry. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think you left out the middle. So you have the young singers, but then you have those in the first and second strata of their careers, and then the top singers. So the top singers either take different fees and come down because they need the money, and they will. most of them will. And then you have the young singers who are still tenacious, and they're going to look at that first and second strata who left the industry or had to. And they're going to try to be poised to take over what they had. So you're going to see elements of all of that. You're going to see who did social media very shrewdly, who kept themselves out there, who kept themselves relevant, who can survive. And then you have the young singers who are still in young artist programs via their homes. And they're still working technically with their teachers and their coaches because that's probably paid for by the young artist program as part of their salary. So they're going to keep going. And my hat's off to the young artist programs in the United States. They're keeping their kids out there via Zoom, via anything, Facebook Live, Instagram. So they're keeping them relevant. So everyone's out there putting their wares, so to speak, online. And if you do that without overpopulating the system, without killing us with all of that input and still maintaining your craft, sure, you'll survive. But there's always going to be those who say, you know, this is it. It was too hard before. I don't know if I can survive this. And they start dropping away.
And we've seen actually played out on social media, especially those saying goodbye to their careers.
That's right. So that's,
and for some,
that's the hard
this might
part.
be a blessing, you know? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's the hard part to watch that. So there is going to always be a top echelon of singer. They're always going to work. And those big theaters will still be ready to have them back. But it's that ensemble, the people in any ensemble who's not protected, who's not making enough money, someone who's maybe in their first 5 years of a career and say, what am I going to do now? Shall I stay with this? Did any of those people in a young artist program or a college, we haven't even spoken, masters, they just graduated, they're taking a job. I worked in corporate New York. They might love it. They might say, this is actually pretty good. I get a paycheck and benefits. Do I want to give this up? So you have a whole lot of different strata of things going on right now that all sort of go into one big pool, and we see who's going to end it, who's going to come out.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. So tell me, where did you develop your love of the human voice?
I grew up with my mother putting the Met on every Saturday. And for the longest time, I'd say maybe up until I was a teenager, I didn't know who the hell was screaming all day. Why are those people screaming at each other? Then I started to love the sounds. The sounds really started to appeal to me. And that was Broadway as well. And then I started, I was a big fan of Barbara Cook. I was a big fan of Barbara Streisand when she was on Broadway. I remember when she did Funny Girl. I was growing up in that. So that started to appeal to me. Also, it appealed to me, even though I couldn't articulate it, was the sounds that I heard, which were so beautiful. When someone decided to wed text with the sounds and actually believed in what they were saying, this is an interesting concept. Mean what you say, and actually have a technique to support that. That started to just ruminate in my brain. Then in high school, I started coaching. I started to work with singers. I didn't know what it was. Coaching was whoever had the football team, the basketball team, and the baseball team in my high school. What I did, I didn't know it was called coaching. And then I just started doing it.
And listen, you trained at New England Conservatory, then you went on to Juilliard. So who do you credit for really helping you develop your ears for singers?
The beginning was Ellen Fall, the great teacher who had me play in her studio after I graduated Juilliard, not when I was a student. I concentrated on the piano for 2 years as a master's. Ellen started. And everyone after that, Ruth Falcon, after Ellen, was also someone who gave me a different impression of breath. So I took from everyone, both bad and good, what was useful. And I started to sift and to sift through things dependent on the voices. So this teacher's information was good for that singer, was terrible for that singer.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And then I just started to observe and see
Mm.
why that worked and why it didn't. And also interpersonal relationships in the work. You are
Right.
trusting your soul to this person. That person could build you up and that person could ruin you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you started to see the power of giving your voice, which is your soul, which is part of you, to that person, and what was good and both bad about it. And I also
Right.
sat back and learned and said, don't do that. Do this, do that. And I'm known to be tough, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit there and ruin a person's psyche or their soul or their reason for doing it. And we've all witnessed that death in a singer. We see the light go out of them. We see the love for communicating go out of them. And you just keep saying to yourself, please be self-observant of what you say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And
So let's,
that's a long road. That's not overnight. You're
yeah,
just
exactly.
learning through life.
So I'm curious, is there an assessment kind of process you have when you start to work with a new singer?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What are they open to? Why did they come to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How they take the information. So,
Mm-hmm.
I look at the general levels of where they're at in their career. Now, at this point in mind, they're coming to me for a reason. So not someone doesn't fall on my doorstep and said, hey, I want to work with you. Usually they're coming for a reason. So that's the major assessment. And if you like the information, great. If they fight me tooth and nail and they're very close to the information, my assessment is you're the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Don't work with me. I'm not good for you, or you don't agree with me. And look, everybody writes their own check. It's their money. So go where you need or go with what you want. You also feel very strongly if somebody's using you for a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
assess that right away. And as you know,
Mm-hmm.
I am Sicilian. I suss that in 15 seconds. Like, okay, you don't want any information. You want me to make a phone call. Bye.
So that's a useful mechanism, isn't it, to be Sicilian and
Yeah.
have that Cassandra kind of sight so you can see through the time wasters.
Good and bad. That's right.
Because certainly you've raised yourself to that level where you don't want to deal with time wasters. Your time is precious now, even with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're in Montreal, I gather you are also coaching private clients as well as working with your opera at hand.
I'm doing private online like
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally get a little bit more time in the schedule at the school, I will work a little bit more privately here, one-on-one, because I have a lot of singers already that I've known through l'Opéra de Montréal. So I have the young artist program kids, a fair amount still are here, and I will work with them as well. One or two professional singers who happen to live here, and we'll work as well.
And how many languages do you speak, Tony?
Oh, God, Italian's good. French is starting to come back, but it's almost useless with the Quebecois. So I've got about 5 or 6 French students actually from France. God bless them. I understand them. The Zoom meetings right now with the faculty and the production team. Oh, it's hard. It's hard. So my French is getting better. I'm conversational. I don't stare at them like a monkey in the zoo too much, except when it's really thick Quebecois accent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting used to it.
But I've always recognized you to be a man who is constantly curious, that you're constantly learning. Mm-hmm. So, being thrown in at that deep end, so to speak, I mean, I'm sure you're relishing this.
I do. And I love talking to an Uber driver who's saying to me, oh, no, it's feminine. And I say, merci pour le corriger. And he said, no. That's on paper. You mean les corrections. And they will correct me. And it's like, thank you. I'm learning every moment. I'm doing something here in the university, because for those who know Montreal, McGill is a little bit more Anglo. So you have a lot more English, and you go up the mountain, and it's up a mountain to the university, the Université de Montréal, and it's almost all French. So I love that. And I feel like I'm in a European town, which, as you know, really speaks to me.
Yeah. I'm sure you're happy as can be.
I'm really
And
happy.
that kind of takes care of the sorrow of leaving New York. I mean, and I know you to be a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker. You love the vibe of the city. You love everything about it. That must be very difficult, even though necessary right now for you just to be able to work, to pick yourself up and leave for the short time. But perhaps this could be a longer time,
Yeah, maybe it'll turn into it. I mean, I relish what the people here give me. They are hungry. They want to be fed with information. They were great to work with online for 2 weeks. I did almost all recitative work with them, and they were terrific. They jump in with such a beautiful attitude. So this is beautiful, and it feeds me. And then I get to come here and just deal with the lovely people of Montreal, which, as a New Yorker, we are all pretty tough and aggressive and in your face. And it's so nice here. I mean, it's like, pitch me. People are nice. Do you really? Oh, yeah, we'll come up and get the garbage while you're in quarantine. Are you kidding me? Thank you. Oh, you need money to tip your grocery delivery? We'll come up. We'll give you change. It's fantastic.
It's wonderful. You speak about the great attitude of the singers. How is it different from the typical New Yorker? Or is it?
New York has been hit very, very, very hard with COVID. So the morale drop has been dramatic, and you feel it. Those who have work on the horizon have a good attitude. Those who don't they're heavy with the attitude in the United States and New York. And New York is coming up again with numbers. So here, Canada's doing far better than the United States. So the attitude and the tenaciousness to think outside the box is very easy here. And I'm learning from them. We're not doing that enough in the United States. And my artists who live in the United States know it. And if they could get out of jail with a free pass like I had to get out of the United States, they'd be happy, and they would feel what I'm feeling, which is something is finally lifted, that I don't feel that sort of malaise and that heaviness of, are we ever going to get out of this? Okay, the Met's going to come back this date. No, it's going to come back a little longer. Broadway's dead. It'll come back at the beginning of the year. Well, actually, no, the spring of 21. Those dates hurt. The Met Orchestra leaving their apartments because they can't sustain living in Lincoln Center. You read about people who don't know whether they should sell their home or their Stradivarius. Right. This is heavy. This is
heartbreaking.
It's terrible. You don't hear this as much here, so the morale isn't as heavy. And by God, we're going for it here, and I'm thrilled.
And we are being tested as performers everywhere around the world. This is Pamela Kuhn on WGCH on Center Stage with Pamela Kuhn. I'm speaking today with Anthony Manoli, a wonderful vocal coach and conductor who has worked literally around the world at almost every major opera house. Tony, you have worked with the singers of the like of Dame Kiri Tikanawa, of Sandra Ravanovsky, who you mentioned, of Matt Polensani, of Edita Gruberova. I mean, these are some of the greats so far.
Mhm.
Are there any values that you have gained for your own work from working with them?
Yeah, to keep things efficient and to the point. Anyone who's been at that part of that echelon, they
Hmm.
got there for a reason. They got there because of their brilliance. They also got there because they see through the crap so quickly. So keep it succinct, speak the truth. Be careful how you speak the truth. Couch your words, weigh your words, parse your words well. I've said things very honestly to singers, and it's come back to me with daggers. I've learned how to put things in a different way, which is still the truth. That's
Hmm.
hard for me
Hmm.
because I am a very much a straight shooting New Yorker. But you know right away, they smell the crap a mile away. They've been through a career you haven't had the privilege to have or have yet. So immediately you know how to work with them. You also know that they value that and they will want to work with you more and more and more and more. And
Hmm.
there are those who don't want to hear what you have to say that will be insulted. But most of the good ones will stay and listen to the advice you give them. They will
Hmm.
value your honesty. And that's what I've learned. Cut the
Yeah.
crap, cut to the chase. And by the way, I mean, this is what I say to collab pianists when I work with them who have not gotten to an opera house yet. You're thrown into a situation where someone is coming in and replacing someone. You barely have an hour. Cut to the chase. Don't talk
Right.
about your feel about the aria or the character. Nobody gives a damn.
Oh, that's such good advice.
Get
Yeah.
right to the heart of what they need. The conductor does this, the orchestra does this. You will hear that here. I will sing the lines for you. Don't do this here. Look upstage. The monitors will be here. Cut to the chase. You know, don't sit here and say, well, my take on this aria is nobody cares. Their take on the aria or the role is pretty darn good, or they wouldn't be singing in an A opera house.
Exactly. Exactly.
And whether you like it or not, it's not for you to tell them what you think.
Exactly. Good point. Very good point for all singers to hear.
Because
How many times have you had to intervene on behalf of a singer with a conductor who perhaps is being difficult with that singer, and it's really impairing that singer's performance?
I'm out of fingers and toes. Don't have enough.
And how do you walk that fine line? I mean, you're
Oh,
put in a precarious position.
it's hard. Someone's going to come up to you right away in a show of powerhouse singers and think you're the broker as the assistant conductor and
Mhm.
start telling you what they need. And I have to politely say, darling, it's not my show. If that conductor gets hit by a bus, we can have that discussion in my chambers. But that's a conversation you can have. Now, you need to have it with the conductor.
Mhm.
I will
Mhm.
be happy to intercede and be there for all the rehearsals to remind, to cajole, to coddle the person I'm assisting, but it's their
Mhm.
show. So you have to find a way to discuss it or interpret what the singer needs to the conductor. That I can do because sometimes half the time they're not a singer's conductor. They happen to
Mhm.
conduct opera, but they're not a singer's conductor.
Mhm.
You have to be able to interpret what they need in a conductorial way that that conductor understands it,
Mhm.
and you're not
Mhm.
stepping on their toes.
This
So
is very interesting.
it's a hard line. It depends on the personality. We can talk about the divas and the divos. Well, let's talk about conductors.
Mm.
I mean, there's big egos and big egos. So
Mhm.
you have to be careful how you approach them as well. If I have a fantastic rapport with the conductor, great. If I'm doing all the rehearsals because the conductor is out of town and the conductor really doesn't care to walk into a room and conduct a piano, they only want the orchestra, then your work is cut out for you. You're
Mhm.
constantly trying to give them notes. Some are open, and again, it depends on how you deliver the information. So
How
here he used
Sorry.
to make fun of me. As soon as I would come into her dressing room, she would come, oh, here comes the note Nazi. And, we'd laugh. But she knew I wasn't going to close the door when you're going to still hear this. And she knew,
Mhm.
she said,
Mhm.
5/8 and 5/4 are not my favorite time signatures. Okay. So here's what you think, here's what you do. And you give fast notes. as quickly as possible. And if the conductor's not being clear, you ask the conductor to be clear. So you keep walking that line all day.
So how important is humility in this situation for you when
Very,
you're working as an assistant?
very. I choose to look at the person I'm working with as a teacher, and I learn from them. And if
Hmm.
they're awful, I learn from them. I learn what not to do. And you continuously observe. I mean, don't try to jump into it and say, I would do this.
Hmm. Hmm.
If
Big
the
mistake. Yeah.
person asks you, give the information, but observe what didn't work. I remember doing View from the Bridge in DC, one tech rehearsal, 3 hour tech rehearsal for a very complicated piece. And I remember John Demain, bless his heart, turning around at one point. I was behind him screaming, "What do you do here?" And I screamed back what I did. He did it. We didn't have time.
Talk about cut to the chase,
Yeah,
Tony.
we didn't have time. I said,
I love that.
I just said right hand to the brass, left hand to the stage. Thank you. And okay, you move on. That's
Love it.
usually the pace that things go. So you try to tell people in the industry, you have to move quickly and you have
Hmm.
to be succinct in your notes
Hmm. Hmm.
and be
Hmm.
humble. Try
Yeah,
your
yeah.
best. I mean, look, we all have personalities. We might be in the background sometimes, but we feel the same um, daggers. We feel the same criticism. We feel stepped on. You have to work hard to let it roll off your back at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. And moving forward with that kind of idea, with your singers in the studio, do you expect a certain brand of loyalty from them to your work with what you give out?
Yes and no. You have to know the psychology behind it. You know those who are shopping around right away.
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
those who enjoy shopping around and they enjoy having 5 opinions, 10 opinions. Those who go over that, you can see the confusion. And
Hmm.
again, you write the check. If you're still confused, that's your problem. If you're seeking other advice because you want to surround yourself with a strong group of musicians, learn to really enjoy that sort of relationship with the singer, respect it. If those
Hmm.
musicians that they surround themselves are not yes men, respect it if they're getting good information and say, okay, I don't have a problem with that. It's also where they are in their level. You see the kids who are
Right.
coming to schools who are just shopping. It's a necessary evil. If you let it bother you too much, you'll go crazy.
Hmm. Hmm. But that hasn't always been the case, has it? I mean, I would look at you and refer to you as real old school in your sense of integrity and how
Mhm.
you work. I mean, it didn't used to be that singers came to a school and shopped around constantly, or am I wrong?
No, things have changed. Also, the music schools there are more of them. There are more faculty. There are more faculty who are joint faculty on other universities. So you
Hmm.
start to see that there is a influx of information, and maybe I don't have to be wed to one person. Maybe I can get different opinions. And in my school, case in point, which is Manus, the new school in New
Hmm.
York,
In New York. Hmm.
now the new administration welcomes people moving from studio to studio. They think that's inclusive learning.
Really
Look at the mindset; it has changed.
interesting. Do
Now
you
it
think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a good
depends,
thing?
depends on who you're moving to. If
But for the future of singing, Tony, do you really think that's a sound option?
not if you're a young singer still
Hmm.
building the technique, you're going to walk away, in my opinion, a little confused
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you have the power to say, "I don't like you this week. I'm going to go to that person."
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
Now,
Yeah,
it's double edged. If that person is a horrible teacher and treats you badly, you're lucky that you got out of there.
yeah, well, I understand that part, but there's also that aspect of really sticking with one idea, one funnel of work, to really achieve your discipline.
I'm going to say to a singer time and time again, give that teacher or that coach at least half a dozen to a dozen hours to see
Hmm.
an arc of what their work is.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then after that time, if you still don't feel right vocally, you don't feel that it's a good relationship, all right, do what you need to do.
Hmm. Hmm. Let me ask you this: before COVID, who still had all the power in an opera production? Is it the singer, the conductor, the intendant? Is it the stage director?
Well, a lot of times I saw that it was the stage director
Hmm.
and the intendant, of course, but the intendant influences that power. He gives that power. So the conductor sometimes was the odd man out,
So that's so unfortunate to hear.
isn't it? That's
That is
changed.
so
Talking about
unfortunate.
old school and new school, that has
Hmm.
changed.
When the admiration for a great conductor and the versatility of a great conductor was so admired. Do they care about singers anymore, the intendants and the stage directors? Do they really care?
There are new generations of lovers of the voice. So we're starting to see more and more of that. There was a time when I would have said no to that question. But the old school, yes. And as they grew into something else, I saw a lot of people not care. I'm seeing more younger generation intendants loving voices again. A lot of
Hmm.
them were former singers.
Well, that is fantastic.
So they love
Now,
the voice. They
yeah,
know a good voice. They want to nurture a relationship with a house, with an opera house.
that I would welcome that with open arms for the
Little by
future.
little, little
Yeah,
by
it's tremendous. On a lighter note, what do you do in your downtime?
In New York, I started actually turning the television on. Here, no, there is no downtime. But in New York, I was reading a little bit more. As you know about me, I love the stock market, so I love to play with numbers. So I think pianists all love numbers. So I started to dabble a little bit more in trading stocks that I thought might be a little bit more I don't know, death defying. And that was fun. It occupied my mind. It was sort of my crossword puzzle of the New York Times.
Hmm.
And I started to watch a few more movies. The first 2 months, I was watching television far more than I ever have in my life.
Hmm.
Then I stopped. I can't. And I started to
Hmm.
watch politically motivated news casts, and those made me crazy. So I went back to reading about finance, reading about the markets of the world, and there you go. And maybe a few more books.
And aren't you unusual in that way that you love to play with numbers so much? I mean, musicians and actors are notorious for not being business people, but
Well,
yet
then
you seem to have been born with it.
talk to pianists. Talk to pianists. They all love numbers. Alan Greenspan, Condoleezza Rice. I mean,
Hmm.
she had a great sense of numbers, not just her job in the White House, but she could have been a CPA. Both pianists.
Hmm. Yeah,
Love,
of course. Hmm.
love numbers. I remember numbers. I don't remember names.
Isn't
I
that
do not
interesting?
remember names. I remember numbers.
I adore it. I
Yeah,
adore it.
I have. I know a lot of pianists who are wonderful with their retirements, who are wonderful with numbers. The other part of that is you see a lot of musicians other than pianists, and I don't want to make a generalization, sometimes who do fail on that and don't think
Yes.
about it. They think about practicing their instrument. They think about trying
Hmm.
to forward their career. That's tough now. That is a
Hmm. Hmm.
very hard pill to swallow now.
Yeah, it is. Oh boy, and how that has come back to bite so many in the butt right now. As you said earlier, the poor musician who's trying to decide whether to let go of an apartment or their violin. It is personally so wounding to all of us,
No,
and
it's
and we
heartbreaking.
carry that weight right now. We carry that weight.
To watch it. Heartbreaking.
And I think it's very dangerous for us to keep kind of projecting in the future when the Met and when other opera houses are going to open,
Totally
because
agree.
it's
Totally
been
agree.
proven to us it's impossible to be able to predict. So
Absolutely.
let's not raise everyone's expectation.
Well,
Um,
the negativity of these headlines, we don't need more of that.
mhm,
Be
that's right.
a little bit more optimistic. Don't sugarcoat it. but there's so many death knells being put in print right now. And if we're
That's
looking
right.
at prognosticators, well, let's look at the Senate races that were all called Democratic before the
Hmm.
election. Well, that didn't work now, did it?
No, it didn't. It didn't. We know we need art. It balances the chaos in our lives. So for people like you who are going to keep it going and in an old school way, I applaud you all the time. And this is why you have earned the magnificent title of Yoda.
Oh God, every time someone says that, I just start laughing.
Now listen, it was me who
It
called
was
you that
you.
first.
It was you.
I gave
I,
you a keychain.
from
Yoda is
Tiffany.
inscribed on it. Okay. Anyone else wants to steal that? No, it comes back to me. I still think, and I know how you really, really have no time for Star Wars, even though I've tried over and over again to try and change that in you. It has not worked, everyone. So call him Yoda and then just leave.
I think
You
your
don't want
line
the
is,
fallout.
leave the money on the piano and please leave.
Yes. Yes. Just leave the money here. Goodbye. See you next time. Um, if I can just ask, if you do you have any like personal biases or a passion about a certain quality in a voice, in the human voice, or is that possible for you even to think about?
I I never went crazy over a voice as a voice in itself. I had a wide open, I guess, God, what word am I searching for? I was always accessible if you had flexibility of rhythm, flexibility of breathing, that you could bend and curve a line like a jazz singer, and you had a knowledge of that. That always was the passion for me. Yeah, I know what a great voice is. I get excited like everyone else does. But if you're sitting there like the third palm tree from the right on the stage, if your voice is as stilted as your acting,
Hmm.
that doesn't interest me. It's how you evolve with that instrument as an actor and as an artist, and then I'm passionate. Then I want to know all about what you can do with it. Then that's
Yeah.
the curiosity. What more can we bring out of you? What more can we bring to the role? If a
Hmm.
great voice just stands there and makes sounds, I'm bored very quickly, no matter
Yeah.
how fantastic the voice is. No
It's
matter
it's
how,
so true. It's how
and
they're
we,
going to communicate.
yeah,
And
how
this
would you
gets back to your
communicate?
love of text and that textual kind of quality with words.
And if you're a great liar and you can do terrific things with breath and it becomes a visceral experience for the listener, great. I'll grant you that.
Hmm.
But at some point,
Hmm.
as you're out there doing the craft, if you do not grow and take that great technical prowess and support the text with it, I
Hmm.
start to lose interest. I want to
Hmm.
know, did you learn something? Did you learn something
Hmm.
from your stage director? Did you learn something from your conductor? Is
Hmm.
that now going to start ruminating in your artistic choices? That's what I love. And then
Hmm.
the singer with the fantastic voice blows me away. But so does the singer with the third-rate voice. We've known a lot of
Interesting.
third-rate voices who have had first-rate careers,
Correct.
and they ain't no
Correct.
dummy. They're there for a reason. They can do something and make something. I remember sitting, I think I had a rehearsal with an artist at the Met at sea level. So that means you're underground, not as in it's the letter C, not SEA. And I'm sitting down there doing a rehearsal, and I happened to walk by a rehearsal of Lady Macbeth from Athens going on. And a particular singer, sadly, who blew out her voice. It was a wonderful mezzo soprano, wonderful soprano, back to mezzo again, apparently was
Hmm.
suffering from depression and was on a fair amount of psychopharmacology, was in the rehearsal. And I knew the voice was in very poor shape. I couldn't take my eyes off of her. She just brought you in on every sound she made and was so engaging. And I said, well, that's why you are who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah, you can.
that's what I think the industry is about, telling a story, right?
Exactly.
Tell a
And
story.
even wounded, you can
Yeah.
draw in the masses, and they're bowing at your feet.
Well,
Power.
why does everybody love Judy Garland?
Exactly.
Tell
Yeah,
us
exactly.
a story.
The flaws, and that brings me to another question. How important is perfectionism?
Strive to be the best you can. I don't even use the word.
Hmm.
I think if you're striving for perfectionism, I think you're asking for something that's really not attainable. You can get
Unachievable. Yeah.
close,
Hmm.
work at it, work at it, work at it, make your work ethic incredibly intense. But
Hmm.
know when you've reached a limit that you can't go any further, that tomorrow is another day and you'll
Hmm.
bring something else to it because yesterday was maybe frustrating that you did not reach perfection. You know, it's a great line that Beverly Sills always used to say, my whole career, I think I only had 6 evenings where I felt I sang at my best and felt really in good shape vocally. 6.
Talk about cutting to the chase.
Right.
And that's dead honest. And that's probably very true for most.
For
For
all of us.
most.
I mean, there will be nights where I feel terrific. There was a night with Sandra in Seville. I'd blown my right ear out landing from London into Seville. I started to have bronchitis. By the time I was done with the course of steroids and the heavy antibiotics, which I was dumb enough to go under hot lights, my hands were shaking by opening night. By the second half of the performance, I was at the end of a pool, 8 feet under, totally closed off. All I did was watch her back. And are we together? She said, yes. I said, I'm underwater. I could barely hear you. That voice, I could barely hear it.
But you're
So,
so in touch with her. You're so in touch with her low breath, the energy of the phrase. Yeah.
because we
Through
know
that.
each other for how
Hmm.
many years? I don't know how I would feel if I was out on stage with someone I really didn't have a great deal of experience with. That would have been
Hmm.
tricky.
Hmm.
So, you know, we don't have great nights. Yeah, reviews were lovely. When I read the reviews, I say, great, you guys were deaf. You were worse off than I was. I could barely hear, but they, you know, people were happy. And if you have some sense of ensemble with the singer, which could be soul to soul for all I care, then they feel that. Because I think you said at the beginning something about honesty.
Yes,
Honesty.
that's right.
Yeah. So if there's an honesty, they feel it. And that's the same thing about dealing with the singer. They feel your honesty.
Exactly. Exactly. And there is the real true support that they in the collaboration that you're looking for. That is our nirvana. That's that ecstasy we're looking for in an emotional experience.
That's right.
How often have you felt that with your greater artists?
On stage,
Hmm. Hmm.
I've had about half a dozen where I was really thrilled that I really
Hmm.
felt I was making music and we were having a great conversation, where it moved me. I was really so enthralled to be up there making music with them.
Do you feel at that moment you are playing out of your mind? Do you stop thinking about technique? Or are you really just
Yeah.
in that flow?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm thinking technique, if I'm out there, then something's going wrong and I shouldn't be thinking it unless there's something going wrong. But what I'm trying to do is just listen, 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 stay open to what they're giving you. And, you know, they're having that maybe one of 6 nights, or they're having a night
Hmm.
that isn't great for them. But
Hmm.
yet
Hmm.
you're in touch with that and you can still play off what they gave you differently than 3 nights before in another town.
Hmm.
So that's special and that's always nice. And that's a privilege to be up
That
there.
is that is
Time
fantastic.
stops. It's lovely. Time just stops. Wow, this is awesome. Can it continue all night?
Hmm. Rarely.
Right.
So, Tony Manoli, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? I mean, you and I are of a certain age now. We've seen the years in the music business. What is the personal legacy that you want to be remembered for?
Honesty, truth, and what I did.
I love
The
it.
honesty and truth. And no one ever heard anything that wasn't based on honest assessment of their work.
Right, right. That is so fantastic. That is so fantastic. You certainly are the man who listens, and you are the man who produces. I mean, and I mean that in every sense of the word. I think you can look back on your career and feel fairly good about what you've accomplished so far.
Well, that I've changed people's careers for the better, that I could keep, sustaining their careers and giving them the information that would be useful. And I'm not the only one. I mean, they usually have a team of 2 to 3 people, but to be part of that team is an honor, and to be
Mm-hmm,
part of
mm-hmm,
that team and to continuously ebb and flow with
mm-hmm.
what the career is going to throw at them. So
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
stay open.
And where to now from here? From like March 1st, where to do you think?
I have no idea. I've been asked that a few times. I have no idea. I hope that we're in a better place internationally, that I
Mm-hmm,
can keep working with singers, A, as a performer, and B, as a coach, that I can
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
start to see. I've already had some people in my apartment one-on-one, but that is stringent testing. I have to keep getting tested. That singer has to be tested to walk into my building because I'm in a co-op. So a co-op board, cooperative living. For those of you who don't know, it's indigenous to New York City. I If someone gets sick in the building, for someone who has a business at home, that finger is going to point toward me. So I have to be careful that that singer walks into my lobby, my elevator, and my apartment with a clean bill of health. So those who remain stringent in their personal testing for COVID are allowed in.
All right.
And as that gets better, hopefully 2021, that will grow. And then someone will say, okay, the country's open now. Let's do a concert. Let's do something. And we get back to talking to agents and intendants about doing concerts on their stage. And some of my clients are doing it already. I've seen
Amazing.
Matt online all the time, Polinsani. So he's doing more and more. Lucky boy.
He's out there.
Lucky boy.
He's out there.
Sandra's already done some stuff for the Liceo with Piotr Pishkawa. So, they're working, and that's great. Is it limited? Sure. But hey, they're still getting out and performing. And
and keeping the arts alive, which is so important right now.
We need to feed our soul.
Yes, we do.
We have
Yes,
to.
we do. Yes, we do. Well, Tony, this has been magnificent talk to you for this hour. It's been wonderful. Or should I just cut to the chase and call you Yoda right now and let everyone...
Stop it. I think like George Lucas or somebody's going to sue me and say that's intellectual property and how dare you steal it.
I don't think so. I think he would be willing to share with what you have given back to the world of music.
That's sweet.
And this is what's so important today. And all I can say in wrapping this up is I hope to see you at sea level, but not at the Metropolitan Opera. I want to see you at sea level in the Caribbean.
Hell yes.
You and I have been known to frequent together, and we enjoy our downtime in the sand and in the water.
I'm hopeful. I am so hopeful that's going to happen.
Me too. Me too. And I hope it does soon. And thank you so much, darling. And I want everyone out there to know that the music that's been played today is Tony and my performing together. And we've had a little Strauss and we've had a little Duparc, and I hope you've enjoyed it. So Tony Manoli, thank you so much for being with me on Center Stage. This has been so rich. The richest way and the cut to the chase moment of getting into 2021. And thank you so much for sharing all your expertise.
Pamela Kuhn, I'm most happy to do it. And thank you for having me.
We will do it again, I promise. And to everyone out there, if you want more information on my show, please go to centerstagewithpamelakuhn.com. Write me a note. I love to hear from my listeners. And you can find Anthony Manoli anywhere on the internet and hear some of his marvelous performances we've got out there for his legacy. Tony, thank you so much.
You're welcome, dear.
Have a great time up there. This is Pamela Kuhn, and the curtain is now down on Center Stage.